we choose to be watchdogs, lapdogs. I think that we managed to keep that idea and motto alive. In last 20 years, politicians and governments would be really happy if there were no BIRN work and local offices. The war is over, but we are still seeing denying of war crimes, corruption topics, a never-ending story in this region. So there is a lot of work for BIRN in coming years.
Hello and welcome to Fixed, the podcast by the Fix Media where we unpack media insight and take you behind the scenes of editorial decision, strategy and innovation in the industry. I'm Orsi and I will be your host today. Before we dive in, subscribe, follow and if you like what you hear, support us at the Fix.media. Hello and welcome to Fixed, the podcast by the Fix Media. I'm your host, Orsolya Seregely, and today I'm very happy to welcome Ivana Pavlović, Head of Strategic Planning at Balkan Investigative Reporting Network, aka BIRN, which is a network of independent newsrooms and NGOs. The flagship publication is Balkan Insight, and with Ivana we are going to discuss their 20-year journey, what they had learned, and also about their audience engagement strategy. Also, as a note, this interview is part of the series produced by the Fix under the MOST project. MOST is standing for Media Organization for Stronger Transnational Journalism, which is a European Commission initiative that has 6 non-profit digital media outlets across Europe, like BIRN as well. And the Fix works as a mentor and consultant on product audience and development for partner newsrooms. Also, we are producing educational videos on the MOST, so maybe you can check it out. And Ivana, welcome to Fix.
Hi, Arsha, welcome. Thank you.
So I would say let's jump right into it. So 20 years is a long time in media, let alone in a region as turbulent as the Balkans. When you look back, what's actually changed in how you cover the region and what stayed the same?
Well, I will start this maybe unusually. Once upon a time, back in 2005, there were 5 women, eminent journalists from the region, around one kitchen table here in Belgrade. And they decided to start Balkan Investigative Reporting Network. And from those 5 women and very small regional initiative at the beginning has grown up to some 200 people across the region gathered around this network with a range of activity across many countries. So let me be not modest. I think that we succeeded in becoming one of the leading regional media NGOs in the Balkans. And as you know, with our headquarters is in Bosnia in Sarajevo, but we have branches or local offices in Albania, Kosovo, Montenegro, Bosnia, North Macedonia, Romania, and Serbia. Though the editorial coverage is even larger, we are covering Central Eastern Europe, Greece, and Turkey. So at that time, some people from international community, they were optimists. They thought that the war was over, Milosevic fell, so they thought there is no need for a media outlet such as BIRN and Balkan Insight. But fortunately or unfortunately, they were wrong. And I would say that the need for this kind of regional media is really huge. So I would like to quote one of our woman founders, Goce Igrić, who said at that time, our countries needed us. And I would like to say, I think our countries need us too. And not only countries, but I think that the BIRN's impact and importance is beyond this region. It's global, I would say. So the main focus over the year was to introduce international media standards to this region. The focus was on investigative journalism, to hold the powerful to account. And that's why our role in media landscape of the region was really significant, and it still does. And also what I'm really proud of is our role in media development in the region. As you know, through years we have supported many media outlets in capacity building with different small grant initiative with idea to support them, to encourage them to promote the best quality journalism in the region. You've mentioned Balkan Insight. It's BIRN's flagship English language publication. At the beginning, it was a weekly newsletter, and now in last 20 years, we've published more than 75,000 different issues, and then on that you can add work of local offices. So I would say that if you want to know and hear more about the direction of democracy in the Balkans and in Southeast and Central Europe, and investigative key areas such as transitional justice, human rights, your address should be balkaninsight.com and BIRN. And I would also, one of our founders said, we choose to be watchdogs, lapdogs. I think that we managed to keep that idea and motto alive. In last 20 years, many politicians and governments would be really happy if there were no BIRN work and local offices. So because the war is over, but we are still seeing denying of war crimes, corruption topics are never-ending story in this region, human rights violation too. So there is a lot of work for BIRN in coming years. So as I've mentioned, the focus is on investigating journalism, but also we are training local journalists. We are monitoring courts and public spendings in the region. We support press freedom and civic accountability initiatives through different activities, workshop, data tools, and legal reporting on issues such as corruption, war crimes, and public procurements. So I started this story as a fairy tale, but it's not. I think that behind these 20 years of BIRN's work and engagement in work, you can see serious work, engagement, investment into knowledge, capacities, and efforts to introduce the best media and journalistic standards in this region. And what is also important, what I said, is BIRN's impact not only in the region but globally, because our post-war and transitional experience in covering this topic is now relevant for other war and post-war areas globally, such as Ukraine, unfortunately. So I think that we could share a lot of knowledge and in internal institutional capacity that might be relevant for other countries and colleagues, and we might serve as the inspiration for other similar journalistic initiatives regionally to do similar work in covering war crimes, mass graves, and other transitional justice topics.
As you mentioned, you're covering many things and many topics, different countries. And I think that at the moment you are in a sort of a real transition at BIRN. And what's the direction that you are planning to take? What are you trying to build?
Well, we were established in 2009, in 2005, sorry. So it's an internet era, but the media environment in the Balkans has changed significantly over these 2 decades. The rise of social media, Lloyd-style TV channels, clickbait news websites. In many countries, unfortunately, we are seeing growing authoritarianism, twin populism, and pressure on the media from the governments, which is additional challenge. And on the other side, the funding of independent media has remained a critical problem for survival of media outlets in this region. So as I mentioned, we are the organization that grew up in the internet era in a very challenging region for independent media, and we have come a long way since we were founded, but we as an organization had to adapt to these challenging times. But what has remained the same is our focus on human rights and democratic value. So it's a constant. We have not given up on on our vision and mission, which was written in 2005. But we are investigating new approaches. We are carefully monitoring what's happening on global media scene. As you know, we are testing new approaches in citizen engagement, different initiatives. We are also, I think, regional pioneers in developing AI guidelines for media outlets. But we are aware of all trends. We are carefully monitoring what we can implement, but we are very cautious because of the nature of our work.
The audience isn't just about the typical news consumer, because you're also reaching policymakers, academics, the other communities. Does that shape how you write a story, or is it more about which stories you choose to tell?
So the recent audience research we had with the support of the Fix Foundation showed that the readership of Balkan Insight is really highly concentrated among institutional and policy-oriented sectors. A significant share of our readers work in different government and public sector. They are involved in media, they are journalism professionals, but they also work in civil society and different NGO. And what this shows is that Balkan Insight is primarily reaching well-educated, professionally engaged audience with a strong interest in public affairs, policy, and regional developments in the region. As I said, the original idea was to offer investigations, in-depth analysis, and features from the region. So if you want to be informed about developments in the region, both political, economical, and socials, your address, your one-stop shop is Balkan Insight and other BIRN programs. The structure of Balkan Insight is unique. I'm not talking about the website, about the platform, but about the staff. So most of the staff, I would say more than half, they are permanent local correspondents. They're editors. They're specific editorial procedures for editors. We have English language editors, and this structure, what I'm trying to say is our correspondents are from the region and we receive reliable information from the ground. So the value of our content is reliability and accuracy. So maybe you can get news or quick, rapid information from the Balkans, from other media outlets, but what you cannot get are different layers of social and political context, and that's what our readership is really appreciating. So we are aware that our readers are really Balkan devoted, Balkan lovers, Balkan forward professionals who read this content mostly for their work, academic purpose, but we have never given up our basic core values and editorial standards, which is to provide accurate and reliable information, content, and context about the Balkans. So if you want to sense the Balkans, you read Balkan Insight.
As you mentioned, you have several reporters and anchors from all across the Balkan. I would say that cross-border investigative work is already a bit difficult, especially maybe in this part of the world. It's not even without risk. So how do you navigate that at BN, also for the sources and also for the team?
Oh, thank you for that question. As you know, investigative journalism comes with risk all over the world. In this part of the world, it's really difficult. Many temptations, many attacks, both from the government and non-governmental actors on journalists all the time. And as most newsrooms, we have internal safety procedure for communication with sources, both in personal and in digital space. But there is no bulletproof way to do things. But with rise of digital surveillance, we are investing in BIRN, we are investing efforts to protect our sources and communication with them as much as possible. And part of that is also regular digital checkup of our own devices, which in some countries we operate has become a must, to be honest. And we also have internal procedures to provide help to the journalists if they are in danger. And what I'm really proud of is leadership and the team of BIRN and Balkan Insight that's aware and that thinks about the risks and dangers. And we have created a plan that can be put quickly in motion when needed. So knowing that there are mechanisms to provide safety and people looking after you is really quite important. And I think that that our colleague journalists really appreciate that. Also knowing that you can count on support from colleagues, including those from wider journalistic community, that can also play a big role. We have developed different formal and informal safety nets from local media organizations and outlets that can support you. Not just local, but also international, that are always reacting when there's a attack or the journalists in some kind of risk. What's worrying for us is that we are seeing that challenges for investigative journalists are constantly multiplying. And I think that we are still learning how to navigate through all of them, because we are having new risks appear from time to time. So it's not only physical danger, the hostile digital environment, it's also stress, political pressures, health issues, worry, or personal feeling that you might be monitored.
I think part of this security is also the tool that you're actively using to engage your audience, because I know that you have a tool, audience engagement tool, focusing on the audience, especially if you want to pull ideas from them. So how did that change the dynamic between you and the readers? Like, did it feel different?
Uh, yes, I think we are really proud of that tool. It's called the Engaged Citizens Reporting Tool, TR tool. So it's a digital platform developed by BIRN 5 years ago. And what's, I think, unique about that platform is that you don't usually see this direct communication between investigative platform and this intense communication between citizens and investigative platform, because what we are forgetting from time to time in media industry is what problem are we solving to the people, to the citizens, and to the community we are working in. And this tool is, I think, addressing that question. So this platform facilitates communication between newsrooms and the citizens. We use it both internally, but also we've shared this with other media outlets. So the platform allows you to gather, to crowdsource the evidence, the testimonies, both in physical, textual, numerical, audio, photo, video form. So you can collect both quantitative but also qualitative data. And then the next step would be journalists analyzing, making the structure of the information received in order to build clear evidence-based narratives. It's independently developed digital tool. It's created and maintained outside of the governmental or large technological companies' control, and it's designed to ensure editorial autonomy, security, and public trust. And what I would like to emphasize, this is not a pool tool. So we are not asking for the opinion, we are asking people to share their insights. And it's not about the number to receive, I don't know, huge number of responses. So the focus is not on the numbers. Sometimes we have stories where we and calls where we received hundreds of citizens' submissions, and it helped journalists to prove a pattern. But sometimes we receive only a few responses, reactions, but there is one very important to change the course of investigations. And so I've mentioned that we've shared this tool with many media outlets. Then 80 newsrooms in the region have access to this tool. We have trained more than 200 journalists to use it, and we received more than 100,000 citizens have been engaged via these call outs. So I think that this tool is really interesting, and we've seen many, there are even nationally and internationally rewarded stories with really huge impact that use this tool. I'm talking about some regional media outlets.
You just conducted an audience analysis, and when these data came back, have you seen anything? Was there anything that generally caught you off guard? Something that made you think that, okay, we had this wrong?
Well, to be honest, it's a 50-page audience analysis, so we haven't had time, to be honest, to analyze it thoroughly on the level of the organizations, on the level of the whole organization. I was actually a bit surprised with how devoted and loyal our audience is. I think that's a huge privilege. Also, I think it's more than this content. It's not only about work, it serves their professional needs, but what's obvious, you see this the Balkan the Balkan forward people. So they're really interested in what's going on in this region, maybe because they cannot find it elsewhere. The platform is unique, it's in English, but also there is this imminent private interest in the region. That's what I liked about this research. And also what's really interesting is their readiness to share ideas, proposals, and constructive critics how to improve Balkan Insight work. So they did not, we got more than 700 responses in this audience research, which is quite an impressive number, I would say. And more than 100 people were willing to participate in our focus groups, which is also, I think, really impressive fact, knowing that many people are busy, they do not have time. Why would they participate in media focus groups? And it shows that community, Balkan Insight's readership community across the world is really interested in keeping this kind of media outlets. So they're interested in, they think that this kind of media outlet should exist and should be supported, which is really important for us.
You mentioned the focus groups, and I would say that especially in such research, the focus groups are really like a step beyond data, because you can actually sit with people and talk. So, what came out of those conversations that otherwise maybe you couldn't get it?
Well, so to better know the Balkan Insight's audience preferences, together with the online survey, which was organized on Balkan Insight, we had, with the FIX support, we conducted deep dive focus groups with our readers, with our audience. So the focus groups were designed as a qualitative follow-up to the audience survey, with the idea to deepen the qualitative findings from the online survey. So the survey provides a broad overview of audience behaviors, attitudes, and needs, but it does not fully explain why respondents think or act in certain way. So the focus groups addressed this gap because the questions were about their motivations, expectations, barriers, uh, uh, and they were asked to describe their relationship with Balkan Insights, and they were really, what I liked about that is they were really focused uh, to help. So they were really thinking about Balkan Insight content and how to improve the service, the approach, etc. And I think I would say that maybe we got two main conclusions which are really relevant for us. They all said that investigations and in-depth content and analysis are primary value proposition of the Balkan Insight. News, okay, but they really appreciate investigations from the region about the region. And the second thing what focus groups showed us is that our audience is nice, polite, professional, research oriented, and it's definitely internationally distributed. We knew that from the Google Analytics. Our audience is really on international, it's not regional. As you know, the content is in English. Our audience is US, UK, EU, Australia, Japan. We had people in focus groups from Japan and Australia. So the task for our strategic development, it's not easy, because this is, I believe that not many regional media outlets are in similar situation as Balkan Insight, but we've received really valuable concrete proposals from the FIX team.
Has any of this made its way into the actual editorial decision? Are you planning to implement them?
Yes, me personally, my team is responsible for management and monitoring of business operations of for-profit activities. So we focused primarily in these recommendations on subscription section, how to attract more audience, more younger audience, and I've already in this short-term notice implemented some of your recommendations or the recommendations I've seen in the audience research. But we really will analyze this document, and we will definitely implement many proposals, both in our editorial section, but also in this business development section of BIRN and Balkan Insight.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the summer school program that you usually have every year. So, who is that for? And what do you want people to leave with?
Okay, so applications for the new BIRN Summer School of Investigative Reporting are open. I'm calling all interested journalists to apply. This year it will be in Ohrid Lake, North Macedonia in August. The focus of this year's school is on cross-border reporting, open source investigations, and data-driven storytelling. We are looking for journalists from the Western Balkans and from Southeast Europe, and we especially encourage applications from early and mid-career journalists, particularly those who are working in difficult or under-resourced media environments where investigative reporting is really challenging. Applications are open. There is a web page, BIRN Summer School, so please apply.
Does it fit back into BIRN in some way? Like, do you end up working with people who came through the program?
BIRN Summer School is not a lecture series, to be clear. It's a working environment. People develop their own investigative ideas from the very beginning, and they receive editorial feedback from experienced international journalists and trainers. Our mentors are really the star of international investigative journalistic scene. So they practice, and the focus is on practical work. We have some people from so we've been organizing summer school, I think, for 15 years. There are some of my colleagues who attended summer school, they work for BIRN, but also many among former students, we are seeing many contributors for BIRN, but also, which is, I think, unique value of these initiatives, there are many journalists or are either the founders of investigative media, or they are prominent, rewarded investigative journalists in the region. So name any good investigative journalist in the region and Central Europe, he or she has attended BIRN Summer School, I'm sure.
All right, slowly we're going to finish this conversation. I have two more questions. Keeping a newsroom like this running across multiple countries, languages, contexts, what's actually held it together for 2 decades?
I think it's dedication, clear vision, and mission, what the BIRN should be. The idea was and still is, BIRN is watchdogs, it's not lapdogs. And I'm sure we are definitely watchdogs now. Also, serious investment in time, in knowledge, and in implementing international investigative media standards, which we are proudly sharing with regional and international media, smaller media outlets, which I think is crucial. So it's not only that BIRN should grow, we should encourage and nourish other media initiatives to work professionally. So to raise many BIRN babies, both in the region and out of the borders of the region, there is obvious need for that. There are many, really many. I mean, we have the oldest, the biggest regional initiatives. I don't know the exact number of regional media outlets that have received BIRN's support, either as a grantee, in capacity building. So the number is really huge. So the BIRN seed is all over the region.
Lastly, if someone is running a small investigative outlet in a complicated region, would ask you what they should learn from BIRN experience, what would you tell them?
Never give up, and investing and strictly following procedures, editorial standards, organizational compliance policies is, I think, essential to succeed. And we should not unprofessional tabloid environment, but we should follow procedures, editorial policies really strictly. And I think that the audience, citizens recognize that. We've seen that in the region. Many arrests, public reactions, many policy changes after BIRN reports were published, and people are aware that maybe they're not ready to pay to financially support media content, but whenever there is a problem, they address serious and professional media outlets looking for support.
All right, Ivana. Thank you for joining to Fix It. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to check out Balkan Insights. And if you enjoy conversation, then follow the Fix Online. Thank you.
Thank you.